Hi, it's Miss Dolores from Baldwin Borough Public Library. Welcome to our first Tuesday of Two Chapter Tuesdays. So every Tuesday at 2 p.m. I will read two chapters from a book that I am recommending to you, and hopefully it will encourage you to check it out. I know the libraries aren't fully open yet, but we are on curbside pickup. So if there's a book that you would want that I've recommended, and it is at the Baldwin Library, you can check it out. You can come to curbside and we can check it out on your card, and you can pick it up on the pickup table. So today I am recommending a book. I'm going to try to recommend books that I think maybe you haven't read, or that I think you would like, that aren't as popular as like Wimpy Kid, or books that you might have already read. So today's book is called Some Places More Than Others. It is written, I'm trying to get the glare off, it's written by Renee Watson, and is an excellent story about an almost 12-year-old girl who wants to go back to where her dad grew up, which is in Harlem, New York, and she wants to visit relatives there. She wants to see where he grew up. She wants to see what it's like in Harlem. She wants to go to the Apollo Theater. She wants to do things there that she has an image in her head of where her dad grew up is like. And she begs him for a long time to go. Her mom does not want her to go, however. But after she gets to go and she is actually there, it is nothing like she thinks it is. Her grandfather and her father actually aren't really speaking to each other, so that was a surprise to her, and that is part of the story line, as well as a project that her teacher has for her called the Suitcase Project. It's for her class, and basically it's interviewing somebody or collecting things that are important to you and putting them in your suitcase for your suitcase project. So this storyline is interwoven throughout the book, and then in the back of the book you can create your own suitcase project, which is a super cool thing for you to do, especially this summer. So normally I would read the first two chapters, but in this book I'm going to read chapter 1 and chapter 3, because chapter 3 starts talking about the suitcase project, which is really important in this story. All right, so here we are, Some Places More Than Others. Chapter 1. New York City is no place for a little girl, Mom says. I don't think Amara is ready to visit. She takes plates from the cabinet, getting ready for the dinner Dad is cooking. I'm sitting at the kitchen island, reading, sort of. I have been on the same page for the past 15 minutes because instead of reading, I'm listening to Mom and Dad's conversation. I am irritated for a couple of reasons. One, because the little girl she is referring to is me, except I'm not a little girl. Exactly 2 weeks and 1 day from today, I will be 12 years old, and besides, it's not like there aren't hundreds, already thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands of kids who live in New York City. I asked if I could go for my birthday to visit Dad's family, and it set off this long discussion. Mom said, kids who are born and raised in New York City is one thing. Kids from Oregon visiting is another thing. She keeps listing reasons why letting me visit New York is a bad idea. She said to Dad, we don't even let Amara walk to school alone. How is she going to navigate a big city? Amara doesn't know anything about a place like New York. She lived in the suburbs her whole life. As if Dad doesn't know where I was born and where I live. We live in Beaverton, Oregon. Just a 30-minute drive from Portland. Less than that if Dad is driving. Mom always says she loves Beaverton over Portland because no matter where you are, a park is just a short walk away. There are hiking trails and bike paths tucked through the city. When it's not too rainy, The three of us ride our bikes and explore new routes on weekends. I like living here. It's the only place that I've ever called home. But I want to see other places. I want to go somewhere with more people, with more things to do. I try to catch Dad's eyes. See if he will speak up for me and convince Mom to let me go to New York. But he is focused on cooking. He opens the sliding door and steps outside on the patio to check the food he's grilling. He grills even when it's cold outside. He says the covered deck is why he bought this house. I think it's his favorite place to be. I watch him take the salmon off the grill, put the fillets on a plate, and squeeze lemon on each piece. As soon as he comes back inside, I try again. Mom, you act like Dad isn't going to be there with me. It's not like I'd be going by myself, I remind her. Plus, I'll finally get to meet my cousins and spend time with Aunt Tracy. Sweetheart, you're not going, okay? She puts the plates in front of me and looks at Dad like she is trying to get him to back her up. Dad puts another dirty dish into the sink. I know Mom will fuss about that later. Dad is the best cook ever, but he uses just about every bowl, plate, knife, spoon, and fork in the kitchen by the time the meal is actually prepared. He cooks a big family meal once a month because most of the time he's traveling for his job or too busy to come home early tonight for dinner. And tomorrow morning, Dad is leaving for LA, which means Mom and I will be eating takeout for the next few days. Mom eyes all the dirty dishes in the sink. Babe, you're going to have to wash those. You can't leave this mess for Hannah to clean. Don't we pay Hannah to clean the house? Dad asks. Mom lets out a sigh, and I know this means she has had enough with both me and Dad. I get up and take the plates over to set the table, the one in the kitchen. We mostly eat in here instead of the formal dining room. We only eat there on Thanksgiving or when guests are joining us. Right now, it's an extension of Mom's workroom. Her sketches, along with fashion magazines and swatches of fabric, are spread across the table. Mom designs dresses and sells them at her boutique in downtown Portland's Pearl District. It's called Amara's Closet, which I know sounds amazing to most people, especially my friends. I mean, none of them have a whole clothing line and store named after them like I do. But since there's nothing in that boutique that I'd actually wear, it's not that big a deal to me. I'd much rather wear the clothes Dad gets for me. He's the vice president of sports marketing at Nike and oversees branding and special events like the annual All-Star basketball games and the launching of new shoes. Sometimes Dad brings me shoes that aren't even in the stores yet, but mostly I just rotate my Air Jordan retro collection. I have 1 through 12, but my favorite is the AJ4. I get those every time they come out. As Dad takes the pan of roasted potatoes out of the oven and brings it to the table, Mom says, I just don't want her going to New York yet. Here's another thing that's irritating about this conversation. Mom is talking about me like I'm not even in the kitchen. Like she just didn't walk past me, her actual daughter, who can hear everything she's saying. Maybe when she's older, she says. I clear my throat. Like 12, I ask. You've been asking what I want for my birthday. Well, this is what I want. A trip to New York. Dad is going for the All-Star game. Why can't I go with him? He's going for work, Amara, Mom says. Before I can object, Dad gives me a look telling me to let it go. He sprinkles a little salt into the bowl of broccoli and says, Dinner's ready. We sit at the table and Dad prays over the food. We thank God not only for this food, but for this family. Bless us and keep us, and please let me go to New York with Dad to meet Dad's side of the family, I blurt out. Dad opens one eye. Mom opens both. We all say, Amen. Dad passes the plate of salmon first, then the potatoes, then the broccoli. I reach for the basket of homemade dinner rolls and pass it. I swallow my first bite and take a deep breath, just as Mom says, We're not going to talk about this all night, Amara. How did she know I was going to say something else? I put down my fork. Can I just say one more thing? I ask. Both Mom and Dad answer at the same time. Dad saying yes and Mom saying no. Mom gives in. Go ahead. I just want to meet the family that I've only seen in pictures, I say. And you both keep saying that once the baby comes, Dad won't be traveling as much, so I think I should go now. At the mention of the baby, Mom touches her belly. Dad and Mom give each other a look. I know I'd get them with that. Bringing up the new addition to our family always gets them. Just about every other sentence out of their mouths begins with, well, you know, once the baby comes, we're not going to be able to. And usually what they're not going to be able to do is something that I love to do. So I'm thinking this little baby is already messing up my life and she's not even born yet. Mom says, Amara, the answer is no. You are not going to New York for your birthday, so you need to come up with something else that you want to do. She drinks from her glass of water and then says, and you can stop asking, okay? She rubs her belly again, and I wonder about the little life inside her. I haven't told anyone this, but I don't want Mom and Dad to have another baby. I feel bad for admitting it, especially after all the babies Mom was pregnant with and then lost. When I was younger, I really, really wanted a little brother or sister, but after so many times of wishing and hoping only to have no little brother or sister, I just stopped wanting one. But then Mom and Dad told me that they were expecting again, and I just said okay and walked away, and I didn't wish or hope or think of names or talk to Mom's belly at all. But this time, the little baby inside Mom kept growing and growing, and in a month, Mom is supposed to have my baby sister. Mom takes the last bite of her dinner roll and pushes her plate back. Babe, that was so good, nothing like fresh baked bread. Thanks, my mom's recipe, Dad says. Grandma Grace died before I could meet her. I love it when Dad cooks from her recipes. Makes me feel like she is here with us and she is giving us love. Thinking about her makes me think of New York again and how if I could just go to Harlem, I could learn more about Grandma Grace. If I could see the home my dad grew up in, I could stand in her kitchen. I eat another bite and then say, Mom, what if we all go to New York? Maybe not for my birthday, but what about after the baby is born? Dad laughs. You have my persistence, that's for sure, he says. Mom shakes her head. And you say that like it's a good thing. Now, let's not knock persistence. It got me a yes from you, Dad says. He kisses Mom on the cheek and smiles at me. Your mom was not feeling me at all when we first met. Why not? It wasn't him that I wasn't feeling. It was his city, Mom says. New York seemed dirty, crowded, either too hot or too cold, and ridiculously expensive. Hey, Dad said, you're talking about my hometown. Sorry, honey, but you know I'm telling the truth. Mom turns to me and says, besides, Amara, I only went to New York for college, and I knew once I graduated I'd be coming to Oregon. I didn't want to get involved with someone who was going to try to make me stay. But little did she know I was ready for a change and wanted to leave the city, Dad says. Plus my dream job was to work at Nike. So I had already looked into moving to Beaverton. Once I told her that, I had her attention. But I still had to convince her to go on a date with me. Mom smiles. He tried hard too, Amara, reciting me poems and everything. Poems? Dad recites poems? Dad gets up from the table. Okay, all right, enough about me. I take that to mean we can go back to talking about my trip to New York. I look at Mom and ask, so is this your way of telling me that if I stay persistent and recite you a poem, then you'll let me go? Mom gives me the look, the one that says she has had enough and I better get myself together before I regret it. I don't get that look often. A few times she's given it to me when she's already told me 2 or 3 times to turn the TV off and get my homework done. I let it go. I get up, put my plate in the dishwasher, and excuse myself to go to my room. As I walk away, Mom says, "Homework first." "I know," I tell her. On the way to my bedroom, I hear Mom say to Dad, "You love making me the bad guy, huh? Now why you got that girl thinking she can go to Harlem with you? You haven't seen or talked to your father in about 12 years. You really think it's appropriate for Amara to be there when you finally do see him?" My hand is on the doorknob, but I don't open the door. I stand real still so they don't know I'm in the hallway, listening. Dad says, "Going to Harlem doesn't mean I have to see my dad. I've been to New York several times in the past few years. They don't need to know when I'm back in the city. But I think for Amara, the whole point is to meet your—" "Leslie? Not now, please." I go into my room and sit on my bed. My father hasn't talked with Grandpa Earl in 12 years? He's actually been in New York City and he didn't go home? I know he's been there for work, but still, how do you not talk to your father? And why didn't I know this? Dad hasn't talked with Grandpa Earl, but I have. I talk to Grandpa Earl every Father's Day, and on Thanksgiving and Christmas, and on my birthday and on his birthday. I've never really thought about it before, but now that I am remembering, every time I talk to Grandpa Earl, it's Mom who calls me to the phone. When I am finished, I give the phone back to Mom. I think and think, but I can't remember a time when I saw or heard Dad on the phone with Grandpa Earl. He talks with Aunt Tracy a lot. She's been here to Beaverton to visit us a few times. Sometimes Dad sends shoes to my cousins, Nina and Ava, but he doesn't speak with Grandpa Earl. I think maybe I've had it all wrong. Mom is not the one I need to convince about me taking a trip to Harlem. Dad is. Okay, that is the end of chapter 1, and then I am going to skip chapter 2 on purpose because we are going to go to chapter 3 where it talks about the suitcase project. So remember, I want to remind you that if you are a listener right now who may not be able to read this book independently, this is a great story that you can read with a grown-up. So you could read it at any time with a grown-up, maybe a chapter a day, or pick a time that's special that you can share in a book together that somebody can read the story to you. So that's another option too. Okay, so chapter 3. Weekday mornings usually start with Mom and Dad at the kitchen table reading the morning paper over hot cups of coffee. I am always awake before Mom calls out to me, but I like to stay in bed until the absolute last minute I have to get up. Today my bedroom door creaks open before daylight rises, and there's no aroma of coffee floating to my room. I remember that day is not an ordinary morning. Dad is leaving for his trip. Dad whispers, "Amara, Amara." I sit up in my bed, eyes squinting, trying to focus in the darkness. I just want to say goodbye before I leave. He kisses me on the forehead. "When do you get back?" I ask. "Quick trip. I get back Sunday night." "Sunday night?" I'm wide awake now. "But what about taking me to the Nike employee store?" "Oh, sorry, sweetheart. Your mom will have to take you," Dad says. "Dad!" "Amara, my flight doesn't get in until Sunday night. There's nothing I can do about it. Your mom knows how to get there." That is not the point at all. New Nikes come out every Saturday at the employee store, and Dad and I go together whenever there's a release that I really, really want. We get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and our first stop is the McDonald's drive-thru. We order the same thing every time: 2 sausage, egg, and cheese McGriddles, and 2 hash browns. Dad gets coffee. I get orange juice. This is our thing. We eat breakfast in the car and then drive to the employee store to get in the line that, by the time we get there, is just starting to wrap around the building. The die-hard shoe lovers who've gotten special passes to come to the store usually get there around 3 o'clock in the morning. The store doesn't open until 10 o'clock. We've done this in summer heat, in the rain, during winter months, when it's still dark out when we leave. Sometimes it feels like we are sneaking out of the house to go on a private secret mission. that there's no way Mom is going to do this. She won't want to wait in line that long, and by the time we go, there won't be any shoes left. Dad kisses me on the forehead again. I'm sorry, he said. Love you. Love you too. Before leaving for school, I check my weather app to see the forecast. The weather determines what shoes I'll wear. It's going to rain today, so I put on my all black Jordans. My Jordan 1s with the pink swoosh. I leave for school and meet Titus at the end of the block. As we walk, I tell Titus all about my plan to get Mom and Dad to change their minds about me going to Harlem. I think I almost won them over when I mentioned the baby. I just need to keep bringing that up, that once the baby is here, Dad won't be able to travel much because Mom will need him, and me, I guess, but mostly, she'll need my dad. I don't think that's going to help your case. If it didn't make her change her mind when you first said it, she's not going to change it the second, third, or fourth time, Titus tells me. Plus, your dad travels for work. He's always going to be traveling. Well, thanks for the encouragement, I say. I'm just being honest. Let's try to think of something else, something that will really tug at her heart, Titus says. I can tell he is thinking hard. We walk half a block without saying anything, and then he blurts out, I got it. Titus switches his backpack from his left to right shoulder. What if you promise your mom that you'll do a report on something on Harlem, like maybe if you go and visit all the famous places of the Harlem Renaissance, you can... I am not going to give myself an assignment. Not going to happen. We walk down the hill and cross the street. That's the worst idea ever. Titus, homework? I want to go and have fun, not do research. Well, my idea is better than using your baby's sister as a reason, he says. Let's just keep thinking, I say. Titus sighs. I think that was my best idea. I can't think of anything else. Me neither, I say. But I think Titus isn't trying hard because he visits New York all the time with his dad, so maybe he doesn't realize what a big deal it is that I have never been. The clouds shift and the rain begins to drip, drip. First, a drizzle, but by the time we make it to the end of the block, it is pouring. We actually cut through the small park to get to school, but Titus asks, can you go that way? Pointing to the sidewalk. Can't get these muddy. And Mom thinks I'm the sneakerhead. We take the long way, with Titus walking more zigzag than straight to avoid the deep puddles. We don't say much until we're about a block from school. As we turn the corner, I ask Titus, do you think it's weird for someone to stop talking to their parent? Are you that mad at your mom? I doubt the silent treatment will do anything but get you in trouble. No, not me. It's my dad. I found out last night that he hasn't talked to my grandpa for 12 years. 12 years? Titus asks. Whoa, something really bad must have happened. We cross the street and pass a line of cars parked along the drop-off area. Parents are waving goodbye, and car doors are slamming shut. The younger kids wobble to their side of campus, on the right. The middle school students funnel into the building. When I enter the building, I take my wet coat off and stomp my feet on the mat at the door. Titus heads toward his homeroom. See you at lunch, he says. I say goodbye and head to my humanities class. Mr. Rosen is at the door greeting everyone as we walk in. On the way to my desk, I notice there are vintage suitcases all over the classroom. Some are on the floor under the dry erase board, some are lined up against the back wall, and a few on top of the file cabinets. Mr. Rosen said, today we're starting a new unit, the Suitcase Project. You'll be creating time capsules that explore your past, present, and future. At the end of the semester, you will each decorate a suitcase with personal artifacts, poems, and essays about where you're from and what your dreams are for the future. As he talks, I set my eyes on the suitcase atop of the cabinet. One suitcase is wood and leather with a cherry finish. That's the one I want. It reminds me of a mini version of the chest upstairs in the attic, the one I've never seen Mom or Dad open. The chest is a sacred thing. When I was younger, I used to pretend that it was a magic box and that if I opened it, It would take me to a faraway place. Once, when I had friends over on a rainy indoor play day, I realized it was the perfect spot for hiding during a game of hide and seek. I bundled my legs under my body, ducked down behind it, and I disappeared. But I got in trouble for that because Mom said I shouldn't be playing around precious things. I couldn't understand what the big deal was. If it is so precious, why was it hidden in a cold, dark place? I still wonder what's in it. Mr. Rosen has given each of us a packet with prompts for writing about our family history. One of the pages has guidelines for creating self-portraits, timelines, and choosing artifacts and photos to include in the suitcase. You'll notice you'll have to interview at least 2 important adults in your life and create an essay based off of your interviews. I'd like you to be creative with this, Mr. Rosen says. Annabelle raises her hand and asks, "What do you mean by artifacts?" Think of it as family keepsakes, items in your life that have special stories to them. Annabelle asks, "You mean like my mother's wedding ring?" "It's your mom's ring, not yours. That wouldn't count," Benjamin blurts out. Mr. Rosen says, "Well, that would actually count. I'm sure there's a special story behind it. Right, Annabelle?" "It was my grandmother's ring and my great-grandmother's too. It'll be mine one day because I'm the first granddaughter." This is a perfect example. Mr. Rosen bends over and picks up one of the suitcases and opens it. "Now, I wouldn't expect you to put the ring in here, but a photo of it or even a poem about it is what I'm looking for," he explains. "You could paste your poem on the inside and make your own lining." Annabelle looks all proud, like she already has a plan for her suitcase. But me, I don't have any stories to tell about my family. I raise my hand. "But what if you don't have any special artifacts to take a picture of?" "Yeah," Benjamin said, "it'll be impossible for me to get a good grade." I'm glad I'm not the only one who's feeling like this assignment is impossible. Mom is an only child, and both her parents have passed away. Dad hardly ever talks about his family, so I don't know how full my suitcase will be. First, let me say that I think you'll be surprised at what you'll learn about your family just by asking for the story behind a photo or a blanket or something as simple as a chair, Mr. Rosen says. Everything and everyone has a story, a beginning. We're going to stop there, and I will show you that in the back of the book, it says items to include in your suitcase, and it gives you some suggestions of doing your own suitcase project. So hopefully reading this book and the rest of the story, finding out if she ever gets to New York, what her thoughts are, things like that will inspire you to continue to read this book and to request it. You can also request it on our Overdrive app, or you can go to Libby, Libby, and you can request it on that app as well. So I hope you have enjoyed the first 2 chapters of Some Places More Than Others by Renee Watson. We will be back next Tuesday at 2 o'clock for a new book and a new story. Thank you and have a great week.